Hello and welcome once again to Tilting Grounds Morning Paper Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Greg Furlong, and I'm here with Timmy Norcus. What's up, Tim?
Just watching Dodgers Cardinals.
I'm watching them too, amazingly. They are on the national broadcast, which
I
is
know it's
very
fantastic.
exciting. It's great. It looks so beautiful at Chavez Ravine today. I wish
Yeah,
I wish I could watch it on a daily basis.
they've had a nice little run of games. They had a couple against the Mets on MLB Network. They had Friday and Saturday against the Cardinals on MLB Network, and now this one.
Yes, this did
So it's
not
kind
go
of fun.
unnoticed. This did not go unnoticed by your podcast host, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, good, good.
And they've done pretty well, right?
Well, they
They've been winning
split.
some games.
Yeah, they split four with the Mets, and now they've won the first two against St. Louis. So yeah, like if they end up winning tonight, it'll be a 5-2 homestand, which is pretty good against those two teams.
And where are they at in the standings currently?
Um, I don't. I think they're tied for first with the Giants. Well, if they,
Yeah.
it depends on tonight's game.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good vibes around the Dodgers right now. I read a headline on ESPN that Yasiel Puig is having fun again.
well,
So
he's not hitting much, so that's, I guess, like a bright spot.
maybe it's fun for him to like just be out there having fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe that's what it is.
his defense has been a lot better this year. Um, I mean, obviously he's always had a great arm, but like he's actually hitting cutoff men and like making routine plays. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, hitting wise, I mean, he's just not. I've seen nothing to lead me to think like he's like about to break out.
Uh,
So
okay. Well, I mean, fun comes first, and then the breakout. I say. So, so let's keep it to baseball because I was gonna lead off today um, with basketball because that's kind of the hot thing going on. But then Joey Bats, Jose Bautista got punched in the face. So I guess we should talk about that.
it was awesome.
It was pretty good, I have to say. As far as like like fights in pro sports are usually like they go chest to chest and they shove, and then teammates come in and they do the hold me back thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a nice little right cross to the jaw that I'm actually pretty impressed with Bautista that he wasn't just knocked out.
Yeah, I and it's probably like they're not obviously he's not expecting it, right?
No, because this is
Because
not how fights go. Although he kind of like he did the thing with his right hand, like he kind of cocked it back, but I
yeah,
don't think that he was ever really planning to throw it. Just I don't know. He seemed pretty surprised.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, you just never, like you said, like you just never, like guys have opportunities to hit each other all the time, but they never do. Um, I mean, it's just kind of a weird scenario. So, I mean, obviously it stems from last year,
Yeah.
but like they've already, and I mean, like obviously I can't say I've watched all the games, but like this is the last time the teams play this year already.
Oh, okay.
And so,
So
like, it
whatever
was a
you're
weird,
gonna what's gonna happen, it needs to happen now because you're not gonna see him again.
right, but it's just a weird situation because like I don't know if all his other at bats were like, well, we don't want to do this here because I think it was like in the eighth inning, and it's like it's a one-run game.
Well, let's go through it because people may not know exactly what
Yeah.
happened. So you can go ahead and tell it.
So okay, and this is just all off memory, so if any of this is incorrect, then I apologize. But so last year in the divisional round of playoffs, in the fifth game, um, Toronto was down. I want to say by like a run, and Bautista hits a three-run homer in the eighth. So it's not, I don't think it's not a walk-off. He hits the home run in the eighth. He has like this huge bat flip, and he basically pimps it all the way around. Like it's obviously a massive home run.
Bat flip,
Um,
bat throw,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just
and
a
they don't
massive
like
home
that
run.
in baseball. That's bad.
That that is bad. Um, so
That's like To celebrating on the star as far as baseball goes.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's as much as it's celebrating on the star because like for To, that's like a direct shot at the other team. Like he didn't flip his bat towards the pitcher. He didn't point at the pitcher. it was always about him and not about showing up to the other team. But I mean, that's how baseball is. Like, it's anti-fun. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you kind of figured there'd be something. Now, what's weird is like the pitcher who hit him like wasn't even on the team last year, right? So
Right.
I always kind of wonder how these go because it's like, this is his first year in pro ball. He was a convicted felon in the off season, so if he gets fined, are like other players like helping him pay that? Because like obviously it's not his deal.
No. and that pitcher, the convicted felon, like he can't be punching people because I mean he's probably got a PO.
I didn't even know he's allowed out of the country.
Yeah.
So I mean the game was in Texas, but yeah. So like I kind of wonder how that goes. Like he's on probably whatever like close to the minimum, which I understand is still a lot of money, but like so he drills him. Let's get back to the play. So he drills him. Now it's like it's the tying run as at first. You're putting the tying run on at first. And so next is a ground ball. God, I almost forget what the ground ball said. It was obviously either hit to short or third. And Odor kind of straddles the bag like you're supposed to. Now here's where it's kind of like I haven't read a lot about what other people think. So certainly Bautista goes in late. Like he's late. But it's cleats down and he's going at the bag. It's not like the Chase Utley, like I'm going to try and slide right into your leg. So like it's late, but like he could have made contact with him and he didn't. And like I think that was like a conscious decision.
Doesn't he also have like an issue with this? Didn't he have an issue with this sliding thing earlier in the year too?
Well, yeah, well he did, but that wasn't like a malicious. That was like he tried to like grab someone's foot as he was sliding and they were making the throw. That wasn't like I'm going.
It's not. Yeah, it's not like malicious in that it's like injury intent, but it is like you're grabbing someone's foot, like clearly kind of a
right. So he's trying
kind of a weenie move.
And you know what? Like honestly, I mean, I remember it because I was watching it live when it happened, but like it didn't dawn on me at all that like these two things are related.
Yeah.
But so then Odor actually throws the ball away. They call runner's interference immediately, so the batter's out anyways.
Which was the correct call.
Yeah, I mean he just went in super late. Like you can't do that. So
yeah,
but there wasn't an intent to injure. Like I think if none of for sure if none of this went down, like he's not getting suspended.
Right.
It's just like he went in late because he didn't make contact. Like it's nothing.
Right.
But then Odor shoves him, and then he punches him in the face. And at that point, it's kind of
cold cocks him.
Yeah, at that point, it's kind of man. I just like you kind of just have to be shocked. Like, oh my gosh, did that just happen?
Yeah, he just whacked him. But it wasn't like you can't say it was really like a cheap shot, right? Because they were face to face, and Bautista did have his hand raised, like he was going to throw a punch too. Although I don't think, like I said before, I don't think he intended to.
I mean, I think that's
but Odor was very willing.
I mean, it can't really be a cheap shot in the sense that, like, look, he just shoved you.
It was not a sucker punch.
Right. Now, he might not be expecting it because, like,
it doesn't
how
happen.
could you be expecting it? Like, this stuff never happens.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see what the suspension is. Like, I still can't imagine that Bautista gets suspended. Like, what would he get suspended for? Like, he got punched in the face.
Yeah,
and
I don't know
it would set an awful precedent to like, oh, he slid like late, but like didn't make any contact with the runner. Really, so it's like that's like people are getting suspended for that now. So, yeah, I mean it's kind of shocking. I mean you just don't see people get punched in the face like that, like in pro sports, really.
Right.
You know, like you just expect like, I mean maybe like when a batter charges the mound, like, yeah, they might like throw some pitches, but like they never land because they're like flailing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When we post this, when Mike posts this to the Facebook page, this pod to the Facebook page, we'll have to put up a link to this incident because I mean, as far as punches go, this is you just don't like we've been saying you just don't see this in professional sports. Like
Yeah, like I
people
mean, it's
throw punches, but it's like they never connect. This
and if they
one was
do, and if they do,
solid.
they're kind of like glancing or like not like. I mean, this is like a straight right hand. Like I mean,
Yeah,
there's
like flush to
yeah,
the
I mean, it's
jaw.
pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
So yeah, that was baseball today, and that forced us to lead that with that incident on the show today.
Yeah.
But so getting over to the NBA, so the during the week after our podcast, um, the the Thunder dispatched of the Spurs in six. The Spurs weren't able to even get it to seven. They couldn't defend their home court in game five. And I mean, for all intents, they just got run off the floor in game six. And they're going to be playing the Warriors. The Thunder are tomorrow. I mean, do you want to? What do you want to start with here? Do you want to start with the Thunder? Or do you want to start with the Spurs?
Well, let's. I mean, it just feels. I mean, obviously these things happen so fast. Like, so when we started recording last Sunday, the Spurs were up 2-1
Yeah,
with a lead going into the fourth quarter of game four.
yeah.
So you kind of feel like, man, they're basically a quarter of the way. Like if they go up 3-1, like it's kind of over, right? Like they're a
Uh-huh.
quarter of the way from being, they're a quarter of the way from being basically winning this series. Um, I mean, there's so many different places to go. So like, I was trying to think of a good analogy, like kind of like for what the Spurs are in the regular season compared to like in the playoffs, and like all I could come up with is like this, and it's not a great analogy and it doesn't make a ton of sense, but like in the NBA in the regular season, like I can't imagine like that much advanced scouting goes into every game, just because it's like you
Uh-huh.
play so many games, right?
Right.
So when you get up a team against a team like San Antonio, where like they know what they're doing and like they're so disciplined that like they're not out athleting you, they're just kind of out performing you. It would almost be
Execution.
like it would almost be like and it's hard to make a good example for football because you always have a week to prepare, but like
Mm-hmm.
if you were playing Navy and Navy had similar athletes to you and like you know, you just feel like the more you play them, the more used to what they do you're going to become. But like when you just play them once and you're not really prepared, it's like it's kind of like shell shocking.
Yeah.
So like as the series goes on, it's like, oh, like we've seen all their little plays here and all the things they do well. And now like all their deficiencies start to show. So like
Hence the Thunder losing in game one by 30.
right. I mean, a couple things. Like two, the games that San Antonio won were off of long layoffs, right?
Right.
So like game one, they had swept Memphis as a long layoff, and then game three, there was like a 4-day layoff in between two and three.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was hard to ever gauge that this would happen because Memphis was so bad, but you kind of see like San Antonio's not super athletic. They have a bunch of guys who can score, but they don't have an elite scorer, right? So like they had so many just like not great possessions in the fourth quarter of these close games. And I guess it's easy to say that like, oh, well, Donovan pushed the right buttons and Popovich didn't have any answers. It's like, what's he supposed to do? Like, they don't have the athletes, right? Like, they don't have the
Yeah.
athletes. So, I mean, I got to imagine they're going to have some pretty big roster changes next year, though.
Yeah. I mean, you know, rumor has it they're going after Durant and Conley. Conley makes sense just because he's pretty similar to Parker, but I don't know
Yeah.
the
Well, I
Durant
just wonder
thing.
if
I mean,
any of these guys that are free agents are going to sign more than a 1-year deal because then you know the cap goes up majorly.
right,
So
right. I mean that like Durant to the Spurs doesn't make sense. I mean, frankly, Durant to the Thunder doesn't make sense. I mean, not the Thunder, the Warriors, because that's rumored too. That doesn't make sense either.
right.
I don't know. I don't really want to preview like the West just because I mean, like a lot of people can do that and they'll go into X's and O's and stuff. I mean, I guess we can talk about it, but before the series starts, I want to talk about, and we've talked about this before. So there's a lot of discussion about the Warriors and like the '96 Bulls or whoever, and who would win. And we're both of the opinion that any team from 20 years ago is probably not going to be as good as a team now. Just, I mean, nutrition is better. The knowledge of the game is better. Players advance just, through personal trainers and different workouts and analytics and being able to watch film and on and on and on. So, but people always, it's always the Warriors and the Bulls, right?
Right.
Let's say, do you think that I guess if let's say the Warriors lose they don't win the finals this year, right? Like say they lose to the Thunder, they lose to the Cavs.
Yeah.
And I think most people would think, well, that kind of eliminates them from the discussion because they didn't win the championship in their year either.
Right.
How do you think the Thunder and the Cavs would match up against
I think they would both beat them.
Right. So you're of the opinion that the Bulls would be a fourth seed. Would they? I mean, I don't know. Where would you put them in this playoffs? I mean, I definitely would look. I don't care. 20 years, whatever. Other than the Cavs, they would be anyone in the East. I mean,
yeah.
All respect to the Raptors, but come on.
Right. I think you might draw the line around I mean, it's hard to say because San Antonio didn't look great, but I think the Clippers wouldn't be a good matchup for them if Griffin and Paul were healthy. Because you just have so many more athletes, right? But the Clippers team that kind of lost at the end of Portland, without Chris Paul and without Blake Griffin, that's not a good team.
Right.
So I would take the Clippers, the Warriors, the Thunder, the Cavs, and then maybe the Spurs. Maybe the Spurs.
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, who in the '90s? Because there's the '90s NBA was pretty watered down. I mean, you had a couple expansion teams. Magic was, out in '91. Bird was just out. The NBA was definitely in transition. And it was right for someone like Jordan to come along and kind of, he was essentially one of a kind. You had Clyde, but you didn't really have people who played like him. I mean, you had Dominique Wilkins, yes, but he was more just an athlete. He didn't have the refined game that Jordan had.
Right. So it was kind of like a game dominated by slow plotting play.
Right.
Right. And it was still certainly more of an inside out game. And obviously the big men or a few I think the thing that kind of gets lost in this is you see back in the '90s and there were certainly better centers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't every team had one. You know what I mean? It wasn't this thing where oh my gosh, night after night you just have to face all these incredible big men. It's no, there were a few, and those few were really good. David Robinson was really good, and Patrick Ewing was really good, and Alonzo Mourning was really good. They were good players, but it's you see Sean Bradley averaging 35 minutes a night. So yeah. I mean, there's certainly better centers back then than there are now, but I mean, it's just a style of play that it didn't even really win back then, so it's not going to win now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so you had that situation, and now, I mean, who because we always talk about who the Warriors have seen the Warriors have seen teams that are more similar to what the Bulls were, like the Thunder, for example.
Right.
But the Bulls have never seen a team like the Warriors.
Yeah, so I mean it's like the same conversation, and like it drives like the Bulls fans or Jordan fans crazy. It's like I'm not saying that like these players are like Jordan, but they're more similar to Jordan than anybody was like to Curry,
Right.
right?
Or even
And
Clay
it's
Thompson.
right, and you also have to kind of like separate like this Jordan back in this run, like 95, 96. This wasn't the like 37 point a night Jordan,
Right.
right? It's like, yeah, he was great. 30, he averaged like 35 and 5. Like Durant was like 28 and a half, 8 and 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he played less minutes, so it might even like even out like over like a per 36 minutes. But it's like Steph Curry just hit 402 threes.
From further
Like
back.
yeah, from further back. Right, from further back. Um
Not that he
so
needs it.
right, so it's like yeah, I mean it doesn't seem like that unreasonable of a of a statement, but like you'll always hear kind of the same things, right? Like, well, Jordan never lost. Like, he never lost in the finals or anything like this. It's like, yeah, but you're only comparing year over year. So, like, if the Warriors win this year, you'd be like, yeah, like the Warriors didn't lose in the finals either.
Well, I think that like I think when people say, "Well, Jordan never lost," like I don't know, like that he like that's great that he was better than everyone in his era, which he was.
Right,
But that what does that have to do with 2015, 2016? Like
right.
I don't know what that has to do with it. Like yeah, he never
Um,
lost. He never played. He also never played the '87 Lakers. I mean, he did, but he lost to them then.
right. I always think what's weird in obviously hindsight, but like all of a sudden, like I start hearing like how good of a defender like 33-year-old Ron Harper was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like how same thing with Dennis Rodman. And granted, he was a good defender, but like he didn't really defend on the perimeter at that point in his career. So like if you
Right.
yeah, so like if you try and
Because
like
because they didn't have stretch fours, like that wasn't a thing.
they didn't even really have stretch threes. I mean, nobody really shot the three. I mean, and when they did, it was because they moved the line in. Like I mean, it's 22 inches. Like that's a pretty big deal.
Right. It's yeah.
You know. So I mean, is there? I definitely think there are teams that could beat the Warriors, but it's like a matchup issue, right? And so like the Warriors aren't going to be forced out of their comfort zone against the Bulls.
No.
Well, like they would be against like the 85 Lakers or the 01 Lakers or basically anybody who could like have a legitimate scoring center 30 a night.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's when it's like, oh my gosh, we have to play Bogut 25 minutes a night, and then we have to play Azili, and we can almost never play small.
Yeah.
Like the Bulls wouldn't cause that. So
I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, the way I look at it is you have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, who I just don't know who was like them in the '90s.
I think athletically, nobody's ever been like Russell Westbrook.
Right. And then you have Kevin Durant. I mean, he's 6'10".
I think he's actually closer to like 6'11 and a half.
Okay, so let's call him
Yeah.
6'11". Like he's
Yeah.
shooting. He plays like a two guard.
Right. And so like the thing
Then he can
is like
also rebound. I mean,
when
where was
when he
this?
right, so like when they were playing San Antonio, that was a thing. Like it was hard for Kawhi Leonard to actually get into him because like Durant can almost just still just shoot over him.
Right.
Like he can just still shoot over him. Like he doesn't have to worry about getting a shot block like the other players would.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously the league's better now. I mean, you have all these international players who come into the more and more into the league. So, I mean, not to say like to compare it with like baseball and like integration, but like I mean, they just didn't have those players back then, and the ones that they did, I mean, it was pretty few and far between. Now it's like they're every team. Every team.
Right. Right.
So I mean, yeah, certainly the league as a whole is much better now. Much better now.
Right. And then you have a guy like LeBron. Like I mean, come on. Like the game hasn't seen a player like him ever.
Yeah.
So you have LeBron and their team, and you have the Thunder with Durant and Westbrook, and you have the Spurs that won 67 games, and the Warriors won 73 games.
It's pretty incredible.
I mean, how do you like? I don't understand. Like, how do people not just think like this team? Like, and it's ridiculous to say, "Oh, well, we would sweep them." Are you joking? Like, is that a joke? Of course, you wouldn't sweep them. I'm not saying you'd win, and I'm not trying to degrade Michael Jordan or anything, um, because it, why would you? I mean, he's great. I mean, if it, you know how I feel about rankings, but I mean, you have to think. I mean, you ask 100 people, 100 people are going to say Michael Jordan's the best player ever,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. But that doesn't mean that his best team would beat the best team in 2015.
Right, and like just it's not it has nothing to do with him or Chicago or even basketball. Like everything generally in our lives is better now than it was 20 years ago. Just like whoever the best team is 20 years from now, I'll probably like them to beat the Warriors,
Right.
right? Like nobody thinks that those like 60s Celtics teams are like, man, this is the best team ever. It's like, well, they have like 7 Hall of Famers, so like they should probably beat the Bulls then too, right?
Right, like no one does. Like you wouldn't
Right.
say like, oh, the 77 Blazers would have beat the Bulls either. Like no.
Right. Like no, like the game's just advanced. Like it's super advanced.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I don't feel like the 96 or the 95 Packers would have beaten you know, the Seahawks or the whoever. I mean,
No.
that wouldn't have happened.
Like they ever and like it's fine for like the time, but like I couldn't imagine like the Bears 46 defense like playing consistently against like 4 and 5 wide receiver sets.
I
And just
know,
like
right?
putting all those guys in coverage. Like obviously that's not going to go great for them. And like
Yeah, I mean, especially now that like the quarterbacks, like they don't even need play calls anymore. They just stand up
right.
there and just start directing, and Peyton Manning's throwing 50 touchdown passes.
Right. And it has nothing to do with like, the rules are different and they protect the quarterbacks. If
Mm,
Peyton Manning got to play it against these like simplistic defenses back then, he would get hit less, not more. He'd know exactly what they're always going to do. Like every
mm,
play. Every play. Yeah, I mean it's just like the advancement of our society and the advancement of sports. It's like, and I don't remember where I first saw the tweet, but it was basically like, you know, if they didn't measure races in time, like people would swear that Carl Lewis is faster than Usain Bolt. Because you just would
or
watch them and think, oh, remember how good Carl Lewis was? It's like, yeah, he was good for then. It's like
yeah,
now I don't even know if he'd qualify for the Olympics.
or Michael Johnson. I mean, first of
Yeah,
all, I mean Carl Lewis would definitely qualify for the Olympics, but your point is valid. Like people would swear because it's like, oh, he was great, never saw him lose. Like Mark Spitz never lost in swimming. He must be
yeah,
fast. He was so much faster than Michael Phelps.
yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
not really, because the time says no.
Yeah, I mean it's just advancement of everything. Um, I mean even at like the youngest ages, right? So it's not just advancements in like the NBA, but like all the way down to when these kids are growing up, practicing, and all the things that they're given that like when the players in the 90s were growing up in the early 80s, late 70s, they didn't have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
So,
Warriors
I
in
don't know.
five. Warriors in five.
Warriors, you think so?
Well, I mean, it's Jordan. He's gonna get one, right?
Oh, you're talking. Oh, okay. I thought for some reason I thought you were talking about the Thunder Warriors
No,
in five. That's
no.
funny.
The Thunder are much better. The Thunder will win
Yeah.
more games than the Bulls would have.
So what do you say? So let's predict it then. I said we weren't, but who cares?
I'll say Warriors in 7.
Warriors in 7. I'm gonna go Warriors in 6.
Yeah.
I think it'll be 2-2. They'll win Game 5 and they'll win Game 6 on the road.
Yeah. I think it'll be 2-2, and then they'll each kind of win home court from there. I mean, if Steph Curry gets hurt, then obviously all bets are off. But
I mean, if Durant or Westbrook get hurt, then all
right. But I
Curry
think
has been hurt.
It'll just be interesting to see, like, can they still play Cantor and Adams together? Because the Spurs just weren't good enough to like make Enes Kanter defend because he's so bad. But like, I mean, I just gotta feel like the Warriors are gonna be like, look, you want to leave Cantor out here? Like, we're making him defend every possession.
I mean, he'd have to. In the crunch time, he'd probably matched up against Iguodala.
There was a play. I mean, this is so anecdotal, but like to put in perspective, there was a play where like it was Tony Parker and Tim Duncan, and they put Enes Kanter in a pick and roll, and Tim Duncan still beat Kanter to the basket by like a step and a half.
Oh,
like he's just so late in getting like rotating back, and
Tim Duncan's corpse.
Yeah, like it was Tim Duncan. It was just kind of shocking.
I really enjoyed. I'm so glad that Tim Duncan had his like 12 points and like essentially garbage time in the fourth quarter, so that everyone on Twitter could talk about how much of a warrior he is, and it's like so much like the way he's exiting, if in fact this is his exit, is so much better than Kobe's exit. Loved it. Just loved it. Man. I just can't. I don't understand.
I thought it was weird that he didn't get taken out.
You know what, Tim? He doesn't. That's not what Tim Duncan does. He's all about team. He's going to stay on the court to the end. He doesn't need any sort of recognition for anything. Oh, just the best. There was a tweet where someone said, the way Tim Duncan is ending his career and the way Kobe ended his career was just the quintessential picture of like what's different between the two of them. And I guess, like maybe, I guess so, if you want to look at, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, I suppose. I don't really have a problem with that one, but then someone replies like, yeah, one guy was only about winning and another was only about numbers. Like, okay, great. Kobe did no winning in his career. He was only about numbers, and he just happened to win.
He basically demanded a trade because they weren't winning.
No, he demanded a trade because he wanted more numbers to him, and they weren't winning, and he wasn't playing in enough games, so he had to. I just can't do it, Timmy. Oh, did I tell you that I am on like hiatus from Bill Simmons right now?
You've told me multiple times.
Yes, so we are. I did.
Yeah. Every time he writes a mean word about Kobe, you tell me.
Well, it's very often. So I'm off Bill Simmons because he like you said, like I don't want to listen to him and everything. Like I'll be back on him. I like Bill Simmons. Like he does a really good job. He's far better at what he does than I do, what I do right now. So it's totally cool. Like he's, I don't have any illusions that I'm more successful or better at what he does. And he knows a heck of a lot more about the NBA and sports than me, but I still have an opinion. And, he's a Boston homer and he takes shots at Kobe whenever he can. So I don't listen to his podcast anymore. It's basically because I don't want to listen to him. It just makes me upset. So, but I still check out the feed to see if he has any podcasts that I think might be interesting. So he has on, what's the guy? Oh man, why can't I remember his name? Not Scott Van Pelt.
Oh, he had Craig Kilborn on.
Craig Kilborn, right? So he's on, and I thought, oh, okay, like former ESPN guy. I like it when he talks to the ESPN guys. I'll give that a listen. Like 10 minutes in, they're talking about Kobe and how he never made players better, and he's not that good. But Bill Simmons, I mean, even Bill Simmons, to his credit, he's like, oh, top 10. Top 10 in the NBA. And Craig Kilborn's like, I don't even put him in that category.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute. If he's not like that good of a player to you, but he also doesn't make other players better, then where did all this winning come from then? Like, how did that occur?
Yeah, it's always like I don't even know how you quantify something like that.
Like, remember when Pau Gasol did all that winning before?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's like he didn't make any players better, but it's like Tim Duncan didn't have to play with Smush Parker.
Or Kwame Brown, or Slava Medvedenko, or Devin George.
I mean, that's part of it too.
No, I mean, look, I don't like tearing down other players. Like, and that's the thing with Tim Duncan. It's like, for whatever reason, he and Kobe are always pit against each other because they entered the league around the same time.
Right.
So.
Well, and I mean, they basically had that stretch where they both dominated the Western Conference at the same time.
Right. But I would point out that whenever the Lakers were really good, and they matched up with the Spurs, the Lakers generally came out on top.
Yeah, I think the only year that they didn't was
2003.
Yeah.
That would have been the four-peat for the Lakers. Right. And the Spurs caught them in the semis. I mean, that 2003 team was basic. I mean, they were on fumes. I mean, people didn't even know if they would be a playoff team because Shaq was hurt and Kobe was basically carrying them by himself, like, into the playoffs. But the Lakers beat him in 2001. Kobe destroyed them in 2001. Kobe beat them in 2002, and then they beat him in 2004, and they beat him in 2008. Then they didn't play again after that.
Right.
Wait, hold on. All right, I'm gonna stop it right here. So what do you 37 minutes. So what do you need to go?
Yeah, I gotta go. I can hear Delaney crying. Mackenzie's still up, so.
Like, you have to go in the next. All right, this is what we'll do. We'll stop it here.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick it up here tomorrow.
Okay.
So tomorrow we'll only go for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
All right.